All right, my multifamily community family. Today we talk about how to find and cultivate partnerships, okay? This topic is beyond important and can absolutely spring you into a whole bunch of deals, okay? You can obtain a postgraduate level understanding of real estate by dedicating yourself to education, but the reality is you're not gonna get very far without strong trust-based relationships. But relationships are funny though, right? I mean, let's be honest, we are all judgmental. In the midst of trying to build relationships, you will naturally begin to classify people, and for better or worse, okay? And listen, you go to a networking event and just watch, okay? Watch how the same person will greet one person with sincerity and energy and their full attention. Then minutes later, they'll greet someone with far less enthusiasm and attention. And whether this is, that's fair or not, that's not the point, okay? And it doesn't matter because it's a simple reality. The reality is some people command loyalty and admiration while others do not, And we can either be frustrated by that or we can learn to benefit from that. And trust me, from experience, only one of those choices is beneficial. So the question becomes, how are we being perceived, right? And how do we change it? And the answer might not be what you expect. Okay, the far majority of the time, those commanding the most amount of respect are also the most successful. But, okay, what you're gonna realize is the size of their bank account has nothing to do with why they're being treated differently. For example, okay, at a networking event, maybe success is known. Maybe it's not, okay? But if you go to a store, a restaurant, a hotel, really anywhere else where success is unknown, and you'll notice that that same person is treated differently. Okay, the question is why, right? And I'll tell you exactly why. Are you ready? It's because of how successful people think, period. Other people see in us what we see in ourselves. Regardless of what someone's qualifications might be, if they think they are inferior, they are inferior. Okay, to make matters worse, to compensate, that person now might talk down to people like a hotel or restaurant worker to make themselves appear supreme. On the flip side, those who are truly successful know that they are truly successful. They don't have to make someone feel worse for them to feel better. In fact, I feel like it's just the opposite. Those who command the most amount of confidence and respect are those who give the most respect and confidence. So those who are truly successful, in my opinion, make everyone around them better because of how they think, right? This is critical to remember as you start, this business and as you look to cultivate relationships and as you grow as an individual person, okay? How we are being perceived has far less to do with other people and far more to do with how we view ourselves. Now, for the skeptic out there, yes, okay, there are times, no matter how confident you are, that people, for one reason or another, do not like you. Who cares? For real. I want to be very clear. The same logic applies, right? If we're comfortable with ourselves, then we don't worry about what other people think. I mean, if someone doesn't like me, and I know that is shocking to even consider, but there are plenty who don't, okay? I know, I can't wrap my head around it either. But that's just the point, right? I don't need to. Either you. Especially when we're talking about cultivating partnerships, because I sure as shit do not want to partner with anyone who doesn't like me. You either, right? So now, with that out of the way, let's talk about how we think in terms of success, because how we think determines how we act, and how we act will determine how others react to us, okay? All right, The Magic of Thinking Big is one of my favorite books, okay? So with that in mind, I'm gonna give you some advice from this book. And number one bit of advice is to believe that you deserve it. And by it, I mean respect. Believe that you deserve respect. I was teaching a class in San Francisco one time, and I remember a girl in her early 20s coming up to me and saying, I'm just really nervous that people won't take me seriously because of my age. And I thought about that comment multiple times, actually, because it was the opposite of what my first thought was. And it had never even crossed my mind to think of her as young and inexperienced. In fact, the first thought that crossed my mind when she mentioned her age that day was, man, what an ass kicker. What an ass kicker. That was magnified even more when I heard all about her athletic accomplishments, one of which was being an Olympic medalist. She had literally done nothing but succeed her entire life. And I'm confident that everyone who knew her respected her. Yeah, there she was, feeling inferior, all because she was starting something new. The email I wrote her, said something to the effect of, you need to get those worries as far from your mind as you possibly can. Okay? I sincerely feel like one of the biggest, if not the biggest keys to success is thinking positively about yourself. The only real basis, people have for judging our abilities is our actions. And your actions are controlled by your thoughts. In other words, you are what you think you are. And then you better believe that I dropped a think bigger on her. I mean, come on, I had to, right? Find somebody that you respect, view as experienced, and aspire to be like. Dress like them, talk like them, and inevitably, you'll start viewing yourself in the same light as them. It works. Which brings me to step 2, which is find a mentor. Find a mentor. Okay, the first seminar I ever went to was taught by a guy named Jim Anderson. He dressed sharp, was funny as can be, treated everyone like gold. And I always dreamed of speaking at events, which made me immediately want to emulate everything that guy did. I mean, I started to dress like him, but more importantly, I started to act like him. I had this notion in my head that successful people were pompous because they could be pompous, right? But Jim was anything but pompous. In fact, I would say that Jim was the opposite. I mean, he would strike up sincere conversations with the taxi driver, give sincere compliments to anybody at any opportunity, and truly made everyone around him feel more confident. I've tried to emulate that behavior as much as possible, and I'm no Jim Anderson, but a few years later, I found myself speaking at my first event. You know, the same thing happened when I started in the multifamily business, actually. I found people to emulate, and one of those was Dave Lindahl. I listened to how Dave spoke to people, words he used, how he approached challenges, and I would say that it's safe to say that has worked in my favor, okay? Now, number 3 is to look important, okay? Look important. Look important. Look good, feel good. Feel good, play good, get paid good. Okay, this is what my dad would always say. I'm a huge advocate for dressing the part. You better believe that if I'm going to a sporting event, I'll have a jersey on. If I'm going to a rodeo, I'll have Wranglers on. If I'm going golfing, I'll look like I belong on the tour. But golf is an anomaly because I still can't golf worth shit. But I feel more like a golfer, okay? Number 4 is to know your work is important. Okay, there is a story often told about the job attitudes of 3 bricklayers. Okay, it's classic, so I'll go over it again. When asked, what are you doing? The first bricklayer replied, laying brick. The second answered, making $9.30 an hour. And the third said, me? I'm building the world's largest cathedral. And I'll tell you right now that there is zero chance that I partner with anyone who doesn't think that what we do is important. The person who takes pride in what they do will go the extra mile in everything that they do. They are also way more fun to work with because they're happy. A person who thinks their job is important receives mental signals on how to do their job better. Doing a job better brings more opportunities. More opportunities bring more money, and more money bring more happiness, even if poor people say it doesn't. Yes, it does. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. And then lastly, number 5 is to give yourself a pep talk. I'm gonna write this one big here, okay? Give yourself a pep talk. Far too often before we pursue something new, we flood our mind with all the ways that we're gonna fuck it up. And then we act surprised when we actually do that. And once again, trust me, the F word was needed for emphasis. Trust me, okay? All of us use mantras and affirmations, whether we're aware of it or not. Those who are aware of it create positive affirmations, while those who aren't repeat negative ones. We all have this voice in our head. And according to Christine Porath of the Harvard Business Review, that voice is anywhere from 800 to 1,400 words per minute, 8 to 1,400 words per minute at a subconscious level, that we're always talking to ourselves and many times judging ourselves. Other people can certainly influence our thoughts, right? Which is why we have to be so aware with who we let advertise to us. But as powerful as outside advertising is, inside advertising is 10 times more powerful. And here's the kicker. If it's negative, it's literally 10 times more powerful. Bill Buckner, okay, he was an amazing first baseman for the Boston Red Sox, a horrible team, but a great player. But he is known for one of the most memorable bloopers in MLB history. In the 10th inning of the 1986 World Series, Bill let this routine ground ball between his legs, which allowed New York Met Ray Knight to score the game-winning run from second base. That forced a Game 7, a game that the Mets would also win. You probably heard about this play, right? You maybe even watched this play happen. But did you know that Buckner predicted that play just a few weeks before? On October 6th, 1986, Buckner was interviewed by Don Shane about the pressures of postseason play. And in a quote that later appeared on ESPN's Steve Bartman documentary called Catching Hell, Buckner eerily explains the worst-case scenario. He says, the dreams are that you're going to have a great series and win, right? The nightmares are that you're going to let the game-winning run score on a ground ball through your legs. And he pauses and said, those things happen, Yes, Bill, those things happen, but by speaking those things out loud, according to Ms. Porath, you just multiplied your chances of effing up by 70 times. Ouch, okay? So do yourself a favor and give yourself a pep talk and make sure it's a positive one, okay? Now, your take action items today are some of my favorite, and they'll be some of yours as well, okay? So enjoy and go cultivate some partnerships, all right?